Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Sangha Live. I'm Janice Martolucci, and I'm so glad to be back with you this morning. We are coming to a close with this daily meditation series with Caverly Morgan. Tomorrow will actually be my last day as host, and then Friday will be Caverly's last day offering this daily meditation series. So thank you for all who've been joining us for so long. It's been really sweet and really profound. I'll start off today by just reminding you all about the practice of dana. Sangha Live is here because of the generosity of the community. All of the tech, the teachers, the background work that makes these teachings possible and has allowed this community to thrive over the last few months is because of the generosity of the community. So please do consider, especially as things come to a close, supporting financially if you can. There's a green button right below me. And thank you for all those who've been showing up and contributing in all the ways that you have. So just a couple announcements this morning before I bring Caverly on. I'm going to share a number of upcoming events that you can tune into with Caverly. And I want to start by saying, especially as things wrap up this Friday, to join Caverly's mailing list. This is actually the best way to stay in touch with all of her teachings and what she's doing in the world. And so you can do so by visiting caverlymorgan.org. So I'll drop that in the link. But all of the things that I'm going to be sharing with you, you can learn more about by being on the mailing list. So one exciting thing is that tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Caverly is teaching through the Insight Meditation Community of Charlottesville, Virginia. And the theme for tonight is how to know equanimity amidst upheaval. As I said, July 10th, this Friday, is Caverly's last day here. And then the day after, July 11th, through Sangha Live, Caverly's going to do her first book reading. Many of you know that she is releasing a children's book. It's called A Children's Book About Mindfulness. And so she'll be reading it publicly through the Sangha Live platform this Saturday, and I can share some details about that. July 25th, Caverly is offering a one-day online retreat with 3 other meditation teachers. And the theme for that is Caucus to Collectivity, Dismantling Racism from a White Identified Perspective. So often Caverly leads a week-long retreat, in-person retreat at this time, but due to COVID and due to just everything going on around race, the teachers and Caverly decided this was actually going to meet the moment better. So please do check that out. And yeah, and then, as things come to a close, I know so many people have really, they've commented on how sweet this particular community is. And so I'm excited to share that Caverly and Alyssa have worked together to find a way to allow that to continue. So August 4th, there's going to be a reunion session. It's not going to be hosted through Sangha Live. It will be hosted through Presence Collective, which again, Caverly is the creator of. So that'll be August 4th. And again, the best way to get details about that is to join the newsletter, the Presence Collective or Caverly Morgan newsletter. And then I'm excited to share too that beginning in September, Caverly's going to continue Tuesday and Thursday sessions just like this, but again, not through Sangha Live, through Presence Collective. So I think those are all the announcements for today. I'll drop some links in the sidebar, and then please do visit Caverly's website for more details as they're available. All right, I'm going to now bring Caverly on.
Janice, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your service. Friends, as Janice mentioned, tomorrow is her last day hosting, and I just want to acknowledge Janice has been doing this very, very selflessly for some time now, and I have tremendous appreciation for Janice's willingness. It is so often my experience that Janice's willingness shines at the forefront of her experience, that, you know, she's asked to do things all the time with work. And Janice has a real gift and a skill that she's cultivated, I think, through years of practice of being able to say, okay, I will find the willingness for what's needed. And always she's great at finding that from the perspective of recognizing this is what's best for all. So I can find the willingness for that. So in this case, I'm not so sure it's necessarily what's best for all, but it certainly was what the moment called for us to begin these sessions. And it was sweet. Jake mentioned to me the other day that I've done more of these than even Martin has at this point, and I feel so honored about that. So again, thank you, Janice. And yeah, you all can bring some virtual flowers for Janice tomorrow for her last session. I love that folks are over on the sidebar just saying hello, and I really appreciate that many of you are in conversation about, gosh, how can we stay in touch? You know, a reminder about those Wednesday night classes that I do. I know it's a hard time for many of you, and so that's why in September we will start these twice a week morning sessions. But I hope that some of you will be able to come on Wednesdays and just be able to be face to face with us. This next Wednesday, I will be with my husband. I've mentioned we're having an anniversary trip away, so I'll be unplugged. But Suniti will be offering the Wednesday night class, and she's one of the facilitators for the July 25th offering, the retreat day, and she's fantastic. So I encourage you to come and check that out. Also, just Janice mentioned it, but one more plug for making sure you're on the Caverly Morgan mailing list. So you just would go to caverlymorgan.org and sign up for that mailing list there. It's the only way we'll be able to be in touch with you about what's unfolding and how to have this community get to stay together. It just occurred to me as well, as I see folks chiming in, saying, I would like to stay in touch with you. It occurs to me that it could be quite nice if you'd like to offer, many of you are already on our email address, but if you'd like to be on a specific list for these calls and you want to just send Alyssa a note saying, you know, please make my email address available to others who request the same, we could collect a group of people together that way. It's important to me that it's opt-in. It's always fine to show up to these teachings and decide that cultivating Sangha in that way is not where you'd like to place your attention. Just being with Sangha without some of the, like being with Sangha just from the perspective of it has nothing to do with my persona is incredibly valued. In fact, at the monastery where I trained, that's the only way we related to each other. We related to each other only as Sangha members that never focused on the personality. I trained alongside people for 8 years without ever knowing where they came from, unless they talked about that in the group discussions, what their last name was, what they used to do for a living before they were a monk. So yeah, feel free to shoot Alyssa an email if you'd like your email address to be available to others in this group. And yes, thank you. Thanks. I'm just reading the sidebar here. Thanks for the comments, friends. I'm glad we'll have this touch-in next month. And then, of course, I'm delighted that we're going to do twice a week in September. All right. So, yeah, thank you, Carolyn. So true. just tuning in at the same time, off camera. Yeah, it's really been powerful, hasn't it? Oh, I see what you're saying, Carolyn, that you could still show up at the same time. Absolutely. Absolutely. Such a good point. And Sharon, you just sent Alyssa a note. Good. Yeah. So this morning I come in open, empty. For those that weren't here yesterday, I came in with a poem. Today there were many different little threads that arose. Things yesterday that folks pointed to that we could go more deeply into today. But I specifically, in the name of what we've been cultivating through these practice times together, wanted to invite a pause, a checking in, a noticing, and then a seeing what's arising here and now. Thank you, Kiki. I think so too. So pausing, allowing the eyes to close perhaps. Before we begin the meditation, noticing what's here now. What's arising in the body. What's arising in the mind. What's arising in the energetic system. Beautiful, Maria. Restfulness, tenderness. Great. So friends, please write in the sidebar, or if you're tuning in and you don't wish to participate in that way, again, that's absolutely fine. But do take note. What's here now? Lovely pulsing sensation at the spine, feeling relaxed and grounded. Sharon, struggle with pushing things away, is making space, i.e., being the ocean, also separating myself from life. Does awareness exist outside form? So those questions are still alive for you. Good, Sharon. Thank you for naming that. Kiki, I'm present to gratitude, calmness, happy to be with you all here now. Joyce, same as Kiki. Jonathan, peace, serenity, overwrought, pulsing energy, shifting, landing. Glad when I can meet life's demands, energized by an early morning frisbee session with my dog, grasping at love for this group, pushing away, hating that will end, attachment, aversion, push-pull. Beautiful friends, thank you. Thank you. Let's begin our meditation now, recognizing that this meditation is not separate from what we were just doing. It's not separate from the way we greet each other, show up, be in presence together as we log on. This ringing of a bell just indicating not a new experience, but a continuation with a slightly different form of formlessness, really. More space and more silence. Notice any sensation, no matter how subtle. Any thought forms, no matter how subtle. Any emotions that reflect the desire to change what is. To be very clear, this approach, this focus, is a starting place in practice right now. We're not at all suggesting that we can't be change makers in the world, advocates for racial justice or climate justice, animal justice. This is a heart practice starting point. And I would say, especially if you are engaged in those otherworldly activities. To start with stabilizing our recognition that we are not that which runs around only experiencing well-being when we've changed the external content of the world to fit our preferences. Don't turn this teaching of accepting what is into a conditioned should. That's simply more food for the ego. So something's arising and you feel tremendous aversion or clinging. Simply practice saying yes to that, rather than getting in the tangle of, I should be able to accept this, or I should be able to let this go. That conversation still centers this illusion of a self that is separate from life. Rather than taking that a conditioned approach to try to experience acceptance. Recognize yourself as that which is inherently accepting The open, infinite spaciousness of pure consciousness is not pulling anything towards it. It's not shoving anything away. Not only because its very nature is that of allowing, but because it's not separate from what's arising. To push something away or to pull something towards, you have to be indulging the distortion that whatever it is other than you. So we're stabilizing our recognition of who we truly are, our true identityless identity, or our true identity of identitylessness. Not clinging, not resisting, not identified with the stories of the conditioned mind. Not separate. Also, not simply that which negates. So not nothing. Yes, identification with the conditioned mind. Yes, stories. Yes, strong emotions. Yes, pushing and pulling. Yes, the capacity to think, feel, and do. Yes, everything. Yes, nothing. Yes, everything. Yes, emptiness. Yes, form. You are the universal yes to what is. Yes. Thank you, friends. If you are new to joining us today, welcome again. Sangha Live has requested that after the meditations, I remind folks to donate if they're able. And if you've been coming to these groups, a special reminder that I'd love to, in a sense, go out with a bang with Sangha Live. I'd love for them to really feel our appreciation for this platform having been the space for us to gather in this way. Many of you who've been attending these calls, I would not have the pleasure of being connected to and knowing were it not that Martin reached out and said, hey, do you want to do these calls for, I think he said for like a couple weeks. And it's been months, friends, so thank you. So let's have some exchanges, please. I would love to have you come on screen. What a treat that we have the capacity to do that before we close these gatherings out. Again, at least for now. So if you're open to discussing your experience or being in conversation about your practice, please, you can put a question in the question box or write a note in the sidebar. Sharon, I hope you caught that I was riffing off your theme there. And if there's anything that didn't get addressed that you wish to talk about, you're welcome to. Or if you just want to further explore your experience, you're welcome to. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Mary Jane. Yes, friends, what's alive? Great. If Charlie, well, shucks, that was beautiful. It is so beautiful, isn't it, Charlie? It's so beautiful that we can stabilize this recognition of who we are through practice, through knowingly being ourselves in the largest sense of that word. So Sharon, you'd like to come online, lovely. That'd be great. Anyone else that would like to come on today, please just let us know on the sidebar. And Janice will bring you on. Kiki, thank you, Caverly. What a wonderful meditation. I just want to clarify that when you say our true identity of identitylessness, do you mean realizing we're all part of the refuge, not separate, just one? Sharon, hi. Kiki, the short answer is yes. But Kiki, if you would be up for coming on after Sharon, I'd love that. I know I get to see you on Wednesday night, so I know your computer has a camera. Sharon, hello. Hi.
Hi, yeah, the meditation very much spoke to me. And I just did want to just explore maybe a little bit more I'm working with these analogies, and I kind of think that maybe I'm doing like an either or thing, so it's kind of dualistic. So really is probably maybe it doesn't matter. But with the ocean analogy, I have the idea of becoming the ocean. And unfortunately for me, the ocean to me is polluted and finite. And I have trouble with that. But I become the ocean. The ocean has the forms, the waves, the whales, the fishes, whatever, that are the happenings and I'm the ocean, and these things are happening, but I'm not necessarily the things that are happening. And so I think that whole analogy is just not working for me. And so I came up with the kind of infinite, multi-dimensional lattice work lace analogy, where there are swirls, there are forms, there are empty spaces, all this lattice work that's infinite and contains everything. And yet I'm not getting that quite the same sense of calm abiding that I get when I become the ocean. And so the question that I had asked you was, does awareness exist separate from form? And I think I have my own answer that it really doesn't, because that's kind of an either or thing. And yet I'm still questioning. So that's it.
Yeah, the place you're feeling stuck is the conversation, the internal conversation that's being had around form and emptiness. So in Zen, there's that phrase, form is not different from emptiness. Emptiness is not different from form. You're correct. The conditioned mind has this tendency to make these as two separate things. Awareness is separate from the objects that it's aware of. The reason the lace analogy is tricky is because it's a finite object, right? So I love Rupert Spira's analogy. Did you want to comment on that? I want to create space for you.
The lace to me is an infinite, multi-dimensional lattice work. There is no end to it.
So if you can, if you can stretch your, go ahead.
We seem a little bit out of sync. I'm sorry.
No problem. There's a little bit of a delay, and that's not a problem. So what I'm hearing you say is that your view of lace is that it's not a finite object.
Correct.
Yeah, and when I'm using the ocean as a metaphor, I'm also not I'm not using it as a metaphor that has I'm not subscribing to the view of ocean as finite, but it can be helpful, as you've noted in these sessions, to recognize that the wave cannot be teased apart from the ocean. And that's I think part of that analogy that you've resonated with in the past. You might like the I can recognize why the lace analogy, it's sort of hard to visualize it as other than an object, even if you say it's multi-dimensional and infinite. You might like the Rupert Spira analogy I've heard of the self-aware screen. So there's what gets projected onto the screen, but for most of us, we forget about the self-aware screen itself because we're so captivated by what's being projected onto the screen. Right? So a slightly different way to approach what you're wrestling with is to work with this analogy some. There's a self-aware screen, and that what's being projected onto the screen has no life without the existence of the self-aware screen. But as we're going through our daily life, we often forget to attend to the self-aware screen because we're so captivated. And what's arising, quote unquote, on the screen is actually not separate from the screen itself, where you can't take it off the self-aware screen.
Can the screen exist without the projections?
Yes, this screen exists whether nothing is being projected onto it. The screen exists. That's like asking, can this computer screen you're looking at exist if your inbox isn't open on it? So work with that analogy for a while, Sharon. Work with it, not in a heady way, but move into it and explore it. And let's touch back in.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sharon, thank you so much. Kiki, I'd love to have you come on. Sharon, thank you. Thank you for that articulation. And Kiki, thanks for your willingness to come on. While I'm waiting for Kiki to come on, I'll just read Christopher here. So precious with these sessions. Haven't been able to attend for a while. Also lost much of my meditation practice again. Just by attending this, brought it right back. Thank you very much. Thank you, Christopher. Thanks for voicing that. Maria, to stay true to the simplicity of presence and awareness. Sarah, love Rupert Spira. Me too. Carolyn, why do we do this to ourselves? Where did we take a wrong turn? I think I heard Krishnamurti say as we we as humans basically took a wrong turn somewhere. So much belief in thoughts and separateness, had a feeling of being carried around by a huge bird in this practice, a feeling of being put down like all my life, on and off, being carried by this thought stream in the grip of the bird up there, and this landing over and over in practice. Well, Carolyn, while we're waiting to see if Kiki's able... thank you, Carolyn. We'll come back to that, I hope. Kiki, hi. Great to see you. Hello in Granada. Yeah.
Thank you for that wonderful meditation.
Yeah, thank you. What's alive for you today?
I'm just happy and counting, enjoying all the last couple of days of our joint Sangha meditations, and not saying it's an end, knowing that in September we will be back together again 2 days a week, so it'll be even more precious. So it's just the beginning of something new.
Yeah, Kiki, thank you. I do feel the same way, and it does change things. If we step back a bit, it changes so much in our experience of life, doesn't it? When we don't view things as finite, when we're recognizing that everything simply shapeshifts, takes new form, arises and dissolves, passes through our experience, meaning the experience of consciousness itself, and that impermanence is the nature of what is. So it changes how we relate to it, doesn't it?
It does. It makes us less anxious because we just know that change is the norm. That it's,
Yeah, we recognize change as the norm. Yeah.
So I just wanted to clarify in the meditation when you were saying that we should, our true identity is identitylessness and not clinging, not resisting, and not identified with the stories of the conditioned mind. Are you really asking us to just recognize that we're all one and we're all part of that deep inner divine self, that we are all connected to that?
What was your experience?
Well, when you said that, that's how I felt, that I just, just released all the mental stuff and just kind of just came down into my inner self there, the deep divine area, and just realized that we are all part of this oneness. Mm-hmm. Is that what you mean?
Well, what I mean is what you describe. And the reason I'm very cautious about how I talk about this is it's really never my intention to assert a belief that I'm hoping someone else will adopt. So what matters to me about what you're describing is that you describe an experience, and it's quite embodied. You describe a dropping down, a dropping in, a being with, and a felt experience. That's actually what matters to me. And yes, just to spell it out, the pointings in the meditation are invitations into that experience, into that remembrance that when we're identified with this limited, narrow view of identity, we tend to suffer.
Yes.
I like this, I don't like this, I want this, I don't want this, I am this, I'm not that.
It's a nice feeling. I like that when, during the meditation, we get those instructions, and everything just seems cool. Everything just seems okay. All the mental chatter, all the stress, all the things that are going on, you realize in the end, none of that really matters.
Yeah. It's quite powerful, isn't it? Rather than, in the end, I'll finally experience peace because I'll fix all those things.
But peace is actually there all the time. We just get so caught up in the mind that we don't remember. We don't, just touchstone. It's like a touchstone down there.
Exactly.
And imagine what the world would be like if we all had that tendency, that we would not be where we are today with all this race and all this stress. It would just be such a different world. It'd be a blissful, much more peaceful, loving place, So I'm happy you have the Peace in Schools. If we all had those programs in schools, probably we would have just a different world in a few years.
Well, truly, if we all moved through the world from the recognition of that non-separateness and shared being, while not diminishing, right? Not bypassing all the stuff, addressing the stuff of the harm that's caused when we fall for the distortion that we are other than. There's so much harm. Let's not ignore that, but to move into the addressing it from the deepest truth that our very being is shared is quite powerful indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on today. I know I'll see you again soon.
Tomorrow, hopefully.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. All right, friends, I see that we're a few minutes over. Thank you. Carolyn, thank you so much for that. Very rich question, comment. I would like to we'll clearly need to address that tomorrow, and consider coming on screen tomorrow if you're open to it. It would be great to have an exchange. And then Sarah, you asked, will there still be meditation at the same time with someone else? No, Sangha Live is taking a break. So Martin, I think, goes a little bit longer into the summer than I do. As you know, I'm going on vacation with my husband, so I might be a week earlier or so than Martin's closing out, but he's not at the same time. This is it for this form. And yes, don't forget that we do come in August for a get-together through Presence Collective at our new time of 9 a.m. Portland time, rather than 8 a.m. for me right now, Portland time, and Portland, Oregon, PST. So yeah, Pacific Standard Time, 9 a.m. August. I'm sorry, I think it's August 2nd or August 4th. Janice put it on the sidebar. It's the Tuesday of that week. And then in September, we go to twice a week through Presence Collective. So thank you, Janice, August 4th. And do, as I said, please join the Caverly Morgan mailing list so you can get all those details as they unfold. All right, friends, thank you so much for being here. See you tomorrow.